When you think of knitting, what comes to mind? Some cozy sweaters or maybe some delicate lace? But on a small group of islands in the North Atlantic, knitting became something else entirely. It was survival, it was culture, and it created patterns so iconic they spread from fishermen's cottages all the way to royal wardrobes. Welcome to Shetland, home of Fair Isle, legendary lace, and a wool so treasured that knitters around the world can't get enough of it. And there is no better time than right now during Shetland Wool Week to dive into its story. In this video we'll explore Shetland's stunning landscapes and the sheep that made its wool famous. We'll look at the delicate art of Shetland lace and, of course, the bold beauty of Fair Isle knitting. I'll take you inside the story of Shetland Wool Week, introduce you to the two big wool producers, Jamieson and Smith and Jemimisons of Shetland, and highlight some incredible contemporary designers. And make sure to stay until the end because there is going to be a giveaway generally hosted by the amazingly talented knitwear designer Donna Smith. Let's get started. Shetland lies far to the north of Scotland, closer to Norway than to Edinburgh. The landscape is dramatic: rocky cliffs, rolling hills, endless skies, and of course sheep grazing everywhere. Life here wasn't easy. The weather was harsh, the soil was thin, and families struggled to grow some crops. They relied on fishing and some small-scale crofting to survive. But there was one animal that was perfectly adapted to this harsh environment: Shetland sheep. They're small and hardy, able to live on rough pasture and withstand the elements. Over centuries, they developed a wool that is fine, yet also strong and durable. And because Shetland was so remote, the breed remained relatively pure. I do have one skein of Shetland yarn here to show you. Unfortunately, it is not from a Shetland yarn company, but a German one, but it is still 100% Shetland wool. And if you have a closer look, I hope you'll be able to tell that this wool is fine, yet also grippy and has some texture to it, making it perfect to knit these traditional Fair Isle colorwork motifs. The wool became central to the economy, not just the culture. When we talk about Shetland knitting, we talk about the story of Shetland sheep, their resilience, and the people who turned a necessity into artistry. One of the most breathtaking expressions of Shetland knitting is lace. In the 19th century, Shetland lace gained international fame. Delicate shawls were exported to the British mainlands, fetching high prices in London. These weren't just pretty accessories, they were proof of incredible craftsmanship. Imagine a lace shawl so thin that it could be pulled through a wedding ring. But behind the beauty, lace knitting was also labor. Women knitted these lace shawls in order to support their families, often working in dimly lit croft houses, and there was also a lot of pressure because mistakes could mean lost income. The legacy lives on today. Museums and local groups preserve historic lace patterns, and contemporary designers reinterpret them for modern knitters. Shetland lace is more than an art form. It's a symbol of resilience and pride. Of course, the most famous Shetland knitting tradition is Fair Isle. Named after one of the smaller islands in the Shetlands, Fair Isle knitting is a stranded colorwork technique using just 2 colors per row. With natural colors and limited shades available, knitters became masters in combining colorways in such a way that they would almost seem to glow with light. Fair Isle knitting entered global fashion in the 1920s when the Prince of Wales wore a Fair Isle sweater in public. Suddenly, everyone wanted to copy his style. Shetland knitters worked tirelessly to supply the rising demand, but there was also tension between maintaining traditions and catering to the growing markets. Today, Fair Isle knitting is beloved around the globe. Contemporary designers play with bold color palettes, but the traditional motifs, star crosses, and the famous oxo pattern that you can see here remain instantly recognizable. If you knit a Fair Isle pattern or garment, you are joining a conversation across knitters through the generations. Shetland Wool Week is an annual festival that takes place in the fall. It is the biggest celebration of Shetland wool and traditional knitting in the world. Every year they welcome hundreds of visitors, connected by a curiosity and love of the sustainable natural fiber and their island's rich textile heritage. It's a week full of exhibitions, markets, shows and talks, a festival where knitters from the islands and worldwide come together. And if you are watching this video right after its release, Shetland Wool Week 2025 has just kicked off. The theme of this year is Shetland Ways, a way to celebrate the traditional Shetland knitting techniques that are still honored today. The organizers wanted to center not just what is made, but how it is made. The way stitchers use old tools, share knowledge, carry on techniques that might have been in danger of fading. The patron for 2025 is the Shetland Guild of Spinners, Knitters, Weavers and Dyers, more than 70 members strong. They were chosen because of their long commitment to preserving Shetland's textile heritage. And what's especially exciting is the fact that the hat pattern for this year's Shetland Wool Week, which is called the Ayre Turi, that was designed by Rachel Hunter, who is also a guild member, and it draws inspiration from a 1930s all-over Fair Isle sweater pattern. The hat knitting pattern is released right as Shetland Wool Week kicks off, so that knitters can join together and work on this pattern in a huge knit-along short cowl and exchange ideas for colors and just keep each other company while knitting this hat. Each year there's also a Shetland Wool Week annual that comes out, and the 2025 edition was just published and contains 8 patterns, and here you can see a couple of them. If the Shetland sheep provide the wool, then there are 2 yarn companies who turn the wool into the yarn that knitters love: Jamieson and Smith and Jemimas of Shetland. It is easy to confuse them due to the similar names, but their stories are different. Jamieson and Smith, often just called J&S, was founded in the 1930s. They buy fleeces from all over Shetland and carefully sort and grade them, and their yarns are valued for their authenticity. Their flagship yarn is called the 2-ply jumper weight, and it comes in over 100 different colorways, and it's perfect for knitting Fair Isle patterns. Jemimas of Shetland, on the other hand, is a family-owned business, and it was founded in the 1890s. It is now in the 5th generation, and this company does everything from the sheep all the way up to the finished skein. They own the only spinning mill in Shetland, which is located in Sandnes, and they spin, dye and create the yarn there. Both of these companies keep the Shetland wool industry alive, each of them in their own way. And for knitters, they provide the connection from the sheep all the way up to the finished skein, whether you are aiming to knit a delicate lace shawl or a Fair Isle garment. So the sun has decided to shine extremely bright today. That's why I quickly had to close the blinds, and I hope you'll be able to see me better now. So let's move on to some of the amazingly talented contemporary Shetland knitwear designers now. So the first pattern that I would like to show you is a lace shawl, and it is called the Sletts Shawl L252 by Gladys Imidro. This is a pattern that was re-released by Jamieson and Smith, and it is based on an original pattern from the 1980s, and that was designed by Gladys Imidro. It is a 2-ply shawl that makes a beautiful hat for everyday use, but could also be used for a christening. J&S redeveloped this pattern, and it's now available in written and charted form, and it's knit in the Shetland Supreme 2-ply lace. The finished size of this shawl is 45 inches per 45 inches, so it is a square shawl. And I also wanted to show you another lace shawl pattern, and this one is called the Muckle Ayre stole by Anne Junsen Designs. This one was part of the Shetland Wool Week annual of 2019, but is now also available as an individual pattern. It's knitted in the Jemiesons of Shetland Ultra Lace Weight, which has a yardage of 194 meters per 25 gram ball. So just imagine how fine this yarn is. The finished measurements of the stole are 163 centimeters or 64 inches in the length and 51 centimeters or 20 inches in the width. It is worked flat and the pattern rows are worked on both the right side and the wrong side of the stole. And I also wanted to show you another design of this designer because I think it's just so unique and special. Here's the picture, and the pattern is called Anne's Lace Fence, and she came out with this design in October of 2019. So this fence is actually knitted with a wire, and you of course have to make sure that you secure it to some kind of pole. But I think this looks just so interesting, and I can imagine how fitting it must be to have such a lace shawl in an environment like Shetland. The next pattern I would like to show you is a beautiful lace cardigan called the Merran's Cardigan by Hazel Lawrenson. This was part of the Shetland Wool Week annual of 2022, and it's not available as an individual pattern, but you can still purchase this annual on the website of Shetland Wool Week, which I'm going to link for you in the description box along with everything else that I'm talking about in this video. The Merran is actually a traditional lace pattern which was created by Marian Henderson from Unst, which is Shetland's most northerly isle in the early 1930s, and Merran is Shetland's dialect for Marian. The next pattern I would like to show you is called the Korkalett Hat, and it is a design by Alison Randall. Now this is a very traditional Fair Isle hat that was published in October of 2024, and she used the Jamiesons of Shetland spindrift to knit it. The Korkalett hat features an all-over pattern that's knitted in shades of purple and a pop of red. And in the past, to produce yarns of red and purple color, wool had to be dyed using the lichen Lecanora tartarea. And this lichen can be found abundantly on rocks, and the dye that's made from it was called Korkalett in Shetland, hence the name of this design. Now the pattern comes in only one adult size, but you can adapt the size of the finished hat by going up or down a needle size. The next design that I would like to show you is called the Flooers Cowl. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, I am so sorry, but it is a design by Gudrun Johnston, and this one is part of a book that Gudrun Johnston wrote together with Mary Jane Mucklestone, and the book is called The Grand Shetland Adventure Knits, and it was published by Line in October of 2023. The cowl is worked in the round from a chart, and you begin with a provisional cast on. The life stitches from both ends are then grafted together, and that results in a double layered fabric. And when you wear it, you can tuck the graft away towards the inside of the cowl so that it is not visible. The next pattern that I would like to show you is called the Moorie Cardigan, and it is a design by Ayre Gordon and was published in October of 2018. This pattern is knitted from the bottom up and is steeked, but the only part of the cardigan that is steeked is the colorwork yoke at the top. So you knit flat for most of the body and only knit in the round for the colorwork portion and then steek that one. Now Ayre Gordon is a talented knitwear designer and has a number of beautiful patterns available in her portfolio, but she also works at Jamieson and Smith, and when I by coincidence got into contact with her through Jamieson and Smith, she also very kindly allowed me to use some of her stunning photography from her website to show in this video in order to be able to give you a better impression of the beautiful and unique landscape of Shetland. So thank you very much, Ella. Another Fair Isle cardigan that I would like to show you is called the Strom Cardigan by Rachel Hunter. This was part of the Shetland Wool Week annual of 2020, but it can also be purchased as an individual pattern. So this is also knitted from the bottom up and uses the Jamieson and Smith 2-ply jumper weights, so their signature yarn. I really like the bright and vibrant colorways that she chose for the contrast colors, which I think gives this traditional design a very modern twist. Let's have a look at another cardigan now, and it is a design by Donna Smith called the Scarpigert Cardigan. It came out in September of 2022 as part of her book called Langsund, a Shetland Yarn, but it can also be purchased as an individual pattern. Now, Langsund is the name of Donna Smith's own yarn line. So she has a couple of sheep herself, and the yarn comes from the fleeces of her sheep and the sheep of her neighbors, which she then has processed into a yarn. And she also dyes some of the yarn herself using natural dyes, which, being a natural yarn dyer myself, of course, I absolutely love. And I also really like this cardigan design. I think it looks sophisticated and understated while being classic. It is a bit more of a fitted design, and I think it looks just so wonderful. Of course, especially with this gorgeous Shetland landscape as a backdrop in the pictures. The name Scarpigert comes from a book that Donna read while she designed the cardigan. It is a story that's set in the 18th century Shetland about families that were evicted from their homes to make way for sheep. And Scarpigert was the fictional croft where the novel was set. And there's another design by Donna Smith that I would like to show you because it's just way too cute not to. So this is called the Baa-ble Mug Cozy, and it came out in April of 2017. This is a quick little project that features the popular sheep patterns from the Baa-ble Hat, and it can help you practice some skills as well as keep your tea or coffee warm, of course. You knit in the round with 2 colors at a time, and then you establish a steek and cut the steek and knit an I-cord bind off. It also uses very small quantities of yarn, so it's also a great way of using up those leftover yarns. So I know a couple of you have never steeked before and are a bit scared of it, and I am exactly the same. But when I saw this pattern, I thought this would be the absolute perfect steeking project. And by the way, in case you recognized the motif, this was taken from the Baa-ble Hat that Donna Smith had designed as the hat pattern for the Shetland Wool Week in 2015 when she was the patron of the Shetland Wool Week. And let's have a look at one more pattern from Donna Smith, and this one is called the Jemimas Jumper and Cowl. This was part of the Shetland Wool Week annual of 2022, and it's not available as an individual pattern, but you can still get the 2022 edition. It is an all-over colorwork sweater that is based on an item from the Shetland Museum's textiles collection and is reinterpreted by Donna Smith. The original jumper was created in the 1980s by Jemima Randall, who was a knitter and hand spinner from Unst and lived her adult life in Aberdeen on the mainland. So the pattern itself is knitted completely in the round, and the armholes are later on steeked in order to attach the sleeves, and it also comes with this separate cowl. So that brings us to the giveaway of this episode, and I am so happy to announce that Donna Smith very kindly agreed to gift one of her beautiful knitting patterns to one of you. So if you would like to participate in the giveaway, all you have to do is leave a comment down below letting me know which of Donna Smith's patterns you would like to knit. Please also include your Ravelry username so that Donna can gift you the pattern, and I'm going to draw the winner exactly 1 week from now. Thank you so much, Donna, for making this amazing giveaway possible. And since the theme of the knitting patterns in this video somehow seems to be cardigans, there is one more cardigan that I definitely would like to show you, and it is called the Seabreeze Cardigan by Gudrun Johnston. This is also part of the Shetland Wool Week 2022 annual, and it was actually on the cover of the magazine, and I think it's just breathtakingly beautiful. It is an all-over colorwork cardigan, and Elizabeth herself describes the Seabreeze as a study in blue, evoking images of the sea around Shetland in a fresh breeze, with a touch of lighter colors as the sun catches ripples on the water. It's a long cardigan with drop shoulders and no sleeves, and it can be worn in a waterfall or a crossover style. And of course, you could easily add or subtract length to make it fit your own preferences. In order to really understand Shetland knitting, you have to understand how deeply it was woven into everyday's life. Knitting was not just a pastime, it was survival. Women and children knitted constantly in order to support their family. But there was also pride. Knitting patterns were passed down from mother to daughter through the generations, and it became kind of a living heritage. The knitting traditions have remained and survived, while over time again and again being threatened by industrialization and just modern life in general. What's remarkable is how Shetland knitting hasn't disappeared. It has been revived, carried forward and strengthened. Museums, events like the Shetland Wool Week, groups, communities have carried this tradition forward, and knitters worldwide honor the Shetland knitting tradition every time they cast on a fairer pattern. Shetland shows us that knitting is more than a craft. It is a thread that connects landscape, people, and history. It's a story of resilience, creativity, and community, and a story that inspires knitters worldwide. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Knitting Around the World series, and in case you haven't seen it yet, I recommend that you watch the episode about Scotland next. Until next time, happy knitting! Bye!